Hello, everyone. This is a cryptocurrency vision podcast. Today we are speaking with Jayden Sage. We met with Jayden in Ukraine several years ago. Jayden is CEO of Celestia Ventures and also Global Crypto Council, and early Bitcoin and cryptocurrency adopter, a visionary, speaker at the multiple events, um, including those events which I visited personal, and also writer and traveler. Jayden, please add if I missed something.
Yeah, that's funny. It's Thank you for having me, Andre. For the audience, I told you just a very short introduction, and we added so much more to it. It's okay. Um, I think maybe we should tell the audience that we've been speaking for 2 hours. So this podcast, they're gonna get a summary of what we already talked about for two
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah, so let's start with the topic of it, which you suggested, the upcoming melt up. So what is coming now? A lot
So
of people are excited with the cryptocurrencies rising in prices, and
yeah,
it
hundred
seems
percent. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
that we know the reason. It's the reason, main reason is the new president of United States of America. He
Right.
declared many months before the victory. He spoke at least one big crypto event, or maybe it was several crypto events. But I watched that his speech at big Bitcoin conference where he declared total support and actually articulated some of the really interesting ideas. And here is actually what is the fundamental reason which seems for me the reason why everything is rising. Price of Bitcoin, other coins, not all of them. It's not that Bitcoin is rising and all the altcoins, shitcoins are rising, but some are rising significantly.
Yeah, 100%. I think for for um, for the world at large, he's Donald Trump, but for the crypto community, he's fast become Donald Pump, right? So he's pumping the crypto market, so he gets a new name, Donald Pump. But yeah, so there's a lot of exuberance that's come into the market, obviously, with crypto with BTC hovering almost at 100,000 now, and we'll probably exceed it. So it'll probably go to because Trump doesn't come into the office till January 28th. So there's a lot of time for the ebb and flow with the general rise for it to continue to occur. Because as we know in the markets in general, you always, you buy, you what is it? You buy. Oh, no, I'm gonna get it wrong. It's buy the hype, sell the news. So everybody's buying the hype right now, and when he gets into office, there will be some lag time, and that's when it may actually start going down for a little bit. So that's something that everybody should be prepared for, that there will be a relapse, because right now everybody's buying you're buying the hype, and this hype cycle will continue until at least end of January. So if you're an intraday trader, that may be an opportunity. If you're a long-term investor, it's always good to be in BTC. But outside of that, if you're just like looking to make a major purchase, then be careful, because BTC may hiccup somewhere along the lines in this entire equation.
Yeah, let's imagine some of the words of somebody from his administration or his supporters. They can let's just imagine he promised to take Bitcoin as a reserve currency, but for example, these words he said, it was one price of BTC, it can be two times bigger, and then he said like, okay, we choose, let's say Cardano or some other currency because of the price difference, and
Yeah.
it can influence a lot.
Look, those are, if crypto can be guilty of one thing, it's to have multiple viewpoints, multiple options, right? So you've always had multiple options, whether it's BTC based. I mean, Dogecoin is BTC based, right? So there's many options. ETH unleashed all of the ERC20 tokens. Solana is now functioning in a similar way but different. So you have all of these ecosystems, and nobody yet knows, and I can't imagine anybody knowing what would be the ultimate digital currency. If a centralized government releases a digital currency, I'm not sure people will appreciate that, especially the crypto community, maybe in the beginning because they can benefit off of it financially. But long term, it'll just become a surveillance tool. I mean, every single one of your purchases is encapsulated for surveillance. So I don't know if that concept is something that people will be okay with, unless it is like a Satoshi Nakamoto unknown developer who created it. So nobody's watching it on the back end. So that could work. But right now the jury's out as to what's going to happen. And everybody's in this hype cycle. So it's good in many ways, and it's a tremendous opportunity, if nothing, brand awareness, right? So crypto market always gets a bad rap. And every time that you have an upcycle, all of the naysayers who walked away during the last bear market are recorrected in their thinking, and the market is recorrected. Because when BTC went from 65 and went down, there were a lot of people who said, "Oh, it's going to go down. It's over." And then now it's hovering near 100,000. So all those minds, either those minds were corrected, or the people at large are like, BTC is here to stay. It's going nowhere. If anything, it's going up. So whoever sits on the sideline has the luxury of losing, and whoever engages, is mitigating the outsized risk of a financial system that's in quite turmoil globally, not just for US nationally, or I'm in the US. So it's not just a national issue, it's a global issue for the monetary systems around the world.
And what's from your viewpoint is happening interesting in the cryptocurrency industry? What are the trends?
Major trends. It's I think it's becoming far more. The ecosystems have penetrated so deeply that it's like it's very wide now. It used to be a few verticals. You had a few verticals that were there, but now there's so many approaches, so much going on with even like decentralized science. Like who would have thought that there would be a decentralized science component to this, decentralized medicine. So there's a lot of different angles, and the system is becoming as big as the financial system support. The TradFi currently supports many endeavors, is very robust, very rich, and the crypto market is also becoming similar. Now, where they coincide or where they collide is going to be the big challenge. And when they do collide, what happens then? In a perfect world, what everybody, especially in crypto, is hoping for is that you go to bed knowing that the dollar is in charge, and you wake up knowing that BTC is in charge, and nothing else happened. So like you wake up and you're like, okay, well, where's my BTC? My BTC is at 1 million. Okay, great. Now I'm rich. That's the first concern. Second is like, okay, we killed the bad system, and now we have the BTC system. So now we're all happy. However, nobody's naive to think that that's not going to come with a lot of chaos in the middle process. So and nobody really focuses on that component. So I think the period of chaos will be coming, and that's going to be detrimental in many ways. So you don't just go to sleep on the dollar, wake up on the system being in BTC with no risk in between. It's going to be quite chaotic, and it can lead not just to individual chaos or economic chaos for people like you lost your job, different opportunities, inflation, hyperinflation, but it can also manifest in other ways, like wars. There could be additional wars, there could be resource wars, there could be they could be like forced power wars where previous situations are challenged by nations, and then that causes gyrations politically, and that causes wars. So, and wars cause a lot of strife. People die. So this is the time where this won't just be a light switch. It's going to cause chaos, and I think the crypto community needs to be aware that that's going to occur. Now, there's a lot of people I know in crypto who are like, whatever happens, come hell or high water, we want that. That's great, but there's a lot of gyration, and we need to, at least collectively, not just the crypto community, but as society, figure out a way where we can all move forward without causing all that chaos to be a part of the transition.
For me, it seems that most of the, or at least biggest crypto communities or ecosystems, projects, they already secured their funding and roadmaps and the vision for development and growth for um, not only years, maybe decades. So no matter what is the price of their particular cryptocurrency or the token, and when it's a bear market, they continue to develop. When it's a bull market, it's just more funds for the marketing and for incentives and user adoption. So I don't see, at least right now, I don't see a chaos in these terms. There are a lot of chaos geopolitically, but that's not because of the cryptocurrencies. So
Agreed. But we're not at that phase yet. And where the chaos lies is not in financial terms. It is, but as a secondary effect. So think of it this way: the entire world runs on energy, and energy is still traded in the dollar. So while there have been some, on the outskirts, some changes, BRICS, using their own currencies to exchange and all that stuff. But for the most part, it's still dollar denominated. So if you're going to challenge the dollar, which I'm not saying good or bad, I'm just saying when the dollar is challenged, you are challenging energy. When you're challenging energy, the price of your milk at your local supermarket, which is delivered by trucks and by, tractors and all of the stuff that's involved in getting you your food products, are based on oil. And if oil is challenged because the dollar is challenged and the dollar and oil are tied together, the problem you're going to have is you may have become very rich on paper, but you may be paying $50 for a gallon of milk and $200 for lettuce. So, yeah, you got rich, but at the same time, there's all this chaos and nobody's going to accept that, right? So as a populace, they won't be like, okay, I will pay $200 for lettuce and $50 for milk. So that's going to cause more revolt, more chaos. So before you get to the other side, the transition period may be quite rough.
yeah, in these terms, it's for me looks interesting idea, which was also said by Trump in one of the interviews, that he might, if he decides to do it, he might lower the prices of the oil prices. If oil prices go down, it can significantly affect Russian economy. Maybe Russia will even cause some inner chaos, because we don't know a lot of things which are happening in this prison of nations. There are a lot of non-Russian nations which could maybe try to use the chance to get the freedom, and also Russia can get out from Ukraine, at least stop or much lower their war intensity, and this would be good. And actually, it comes in line with the Trump's idea of, which he also said on the crypto conference, to become the huge energy electricity producer. And that's an interesting idea. He spoke in terms of the mining, but this electricity could be used not only for mining but for other things like production. Uh,
Well, so there's a couple
yeah,
of things in there. Let's separate these levels out. So when he's referring to Bitcoin mining, he's referring to energy consumption by BTC, by Bitcoin mining or mining of any other cryptocurrency. So that's consumption. What we just talked about was energy transferal financial instrument. So energy being oil is currently transferred in the dollar. So that is a different. So if he's talking about that, it automatically doesn't translate to the medium of exchange that's used to transfer this energy from one party to another. That is currently in the dollar. The best way to fix that, I really doubt that that will happen, but the best way to fix this chaos and not have the chaos, which I was referring to earlier, is to actually have BTC be the instrument that trades oil. If you actually go back to the root and have BTC being the financial instrument that oil is traded under, and then if you're going to change out anything, change out the dollar or whatever, then it would be less chaos because all of a sudden, for the aforementioned reasons, the price of milk won't go to 50 because it's being traded in BTC. The underlying energy source is being traded in BTC. So if that happens, yes, but getting a consensus globally to be able to do that would be quite challenged.
yeah, but how can it happen? Of course, some people would like to move to, let's say, Bitcoin standard in this way. But the problem is that the government can print as much dollars as needed, and with Bitcoin, it's not like that. And when governments print money, they can just increase the debt or increase inflation, and with Bitcoin, it can't happen.
Correct, and that's exactly the reason why this cannot happen, because one is inflationary policy and expansionary in nature, and one is constrictive in nature, which is BTC. So you cannot have this dichotomy working. It's kind of like a reboot, and a reboot comes with chaos. No reboot comes without chaos, and that's a chaos that we need to be, even as a crypto community, we need to be aware of. We can't just dream it into existence where we think like, that it's just going to be, everything will remain constant. This is not how the world works, where everything remains in constant and only one thing changes out. When you try to change something as fundamental as our financial system, it can unravel a lot of things. I'm not saying that that's a reason to not change it. All I'm saying is that it's important to be aware that when you pull, it's like a article of clothing. You pull one thread and all of a sudden everything else looks terrible, right? Your sweater looks terrible. What happened? I just pulled one string. So this is the kind of thing you need to factor in, which nobody's factoring, because I can understand everybody's just focused on how can we change out the system rather than when we change out the system, what actually transpires in that change out. So everybody's just focused on, the first part.
Yeah, and when do you expect these changes melt up?
Oh, well, we actually haven't even touched the melt up because that's actually not technically part of the melt up, right? So as far as the transition to a digital currency, whether it's BTC or something else, can either happen swiftly in terms of an outsized consideration. Let's say you have another COVID type crisis, right? And if there's another outsized event that occurs, I'm thinking of some samples, and that's why I'm laughing, but I cannot mention what those would be because right now they'll seem ridiculous, right? Like so I've been in blockchain space longer than obviously the COVID and all of the other gyrations and hiccups we've had since 2011, since around the time that I got in. So if I had mentioned something like a plague, back then on stage, people would have been laughing. Like, you think that we're going to have a global plague? Well, that's nonsense. That's not going to happen. So, when you think about these outsized factors, I can think of some examples. But right now, if you mention it, most people will laugh. And they would laugh at something like a plague too. But we had a plague. So we've had the one thing that people need to be aware of. Anything that can happen is happening on our watch. Our watch is going to go down in history as the everything event time span where everything actually happened. Because look, before the plague, we had floods, we had tsunamis. 125,000 people died in Indonesia. So like, and then we had the Great Depression. They called it the Great Recession because they didn't want to call it the Great Depression. So we had the Depression, we had tsunamis, catastrophic floods. We had a whole host of earthquakes, which nobody accounts for because it wasn't one cataclysmic event. And then we had this plague situation. So anything that can happen, make a list. Anybody who's watching this, just make a list of the most craziest things, and they can
Yeah, and
happen
also
now.
just to add the war and even genocide, because how Russians behaved against civilian, not military, but civilian population of some of the Ukrainian cities like Mariupol, Bucha, Izum, Irpin, and it was really a genocide, but um, of course not so huge in numbers which used to be before, and only Ukrainian army and international help prevented it to scale, because it could scale if there is you understand that there is no limit, there is no limit of cruelty and barbarity, and when you see this reality, you understand that in some cases, and you read novels from the 30s or 40s, from the Second World War, you understand that in a ways it was better back then. And the
Yeah.
yeah, so our generation saw a lot of things.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, if you think about this, we're still doing a slow crawl. Hopefully, Trump can find some solutions, but we're still doing a slow crawl into World War III. And if you ask a lot of people, like, hey, do you think we're going to go into World War III? And they're like, nah, nah, the chances aren't there. But ask the people who lived in between World War I and World War II. They thought that they fought the Great War. There's in the neighborhood I grew up in, New York, there's a monument to World War I soldiers that was constructed in 1930. So in there, it says, to all of our fallen heroes, I'm paraphrasing, to all of our fellow heroes who sacrificed everything, including their lives, during the Great War. It doesn't say during World War I. It just says during the Great War, because in the 1930s, people thought that we already fought the Great War. It was called the Great War until we had another World War, and then it was known as World War I. Then we had a World War II. But the period between World War I and World War II, people were like, yeah, we already had the Great War. We're not going to have another one. Well, we had another one. So right now, people, when they say, oh, we're not going to have another war, you just cannot be so definitive anymore.
Yeah, it's also we call in Ukraine the Great War, which is happening now, also to distinguish from the war which started in 2014 with the occupation
Mm.
of Crimea, which in the West was called low intensity conflict. Yeah,
Mm.
that's also kind of speculation on the word, because conflict is something that you can just speak and disagree on something. This is conflict. But
Yeah.
when people killed, it's really a war, and it was stated that Russia just want the whole Ukraine. They will go as long and as much as they are allowed to do. Uh,
So we
and
should.
also in relation to cryptocurrencies, the wars, they also, it seems for me, they increase the value of cryptocurrencies, because that's inflation. Russian currency is inflating a lot, and it will inflate much worse. Maybe even hyperinflation can happen. It could happen. Actually, it's more surprised that Russian economy was strong enough to maintain this scale of war for so long. And people get more into the alternative savings and spending methods. So for me, it seems the more wars, more conflicts worldwide, more interest for the crypto. It will be like this probably. What do you think?
Yeah, so any conflict is loss in confidence of the economic systems that are in place, right? So when you have that, it's actually, and this is the inverse of inflation, which is that loss of confidence causes loss of confidence in the currency that that nation trades in. So their currency goes down. So that's why the asset prices go up. So if we pivot out of the really tragic war situations that are happening around the world and go to some good news, if you will, there's this dichotomy of a situation that may develop, which is the melt up, which we were discussing earlier, which is that as interest rates go down, then what happens is that asset risk on asset prices, which includes crypto, will go up. And when they go up, we are already at an elevated state. Inflation has not actually subsided. To actually get inflation to subside, we needed another great recession where all of the asset classes would go down. BTC would, and nobody wants that, obviously. BTC would go down to 5,000 or whatever, and all other asset classes in the US, houses would go down from like their $800,000 price point back to $250,000 price point. Nobody wants that. So nobody wants their assets to deflate. So everybody wants to maintain the new valuations, because these are new valuations. Because 2020, pre-2020, 1999 asset valuations were the real valuations. Then we had all of this money dumped into the system, and now we have these new valuations. And in 4 years, everybody's gotten used to those valuations. So if you think about it, like if somebody has a house in the US, as an example, and it's $800,000 right now. So they want to maintain that at 800,000. They don't want to think back that in 1999, that house was 250,000. So if you want inflation to go down, it's going to have, you know how the saying is, a rising tide lifts all boats. A receding tide also makes all boats go down. So it's not like, well, I just want it to go down on the housing market, but I don't want it to go down here or there. You cannot be selective. You cannot spot reduce. That's a reference from working out, where everybody wants a six pack, so everybody wants to spot reduce their six pack. You can't do that. You have to overall reduce your body fat. That's the only way you get the six pack, right? So this is the same situation where we want inflation to go down, but we also don't want whatever our assets are to go down. So coming out of that, just think about it from this point, is that so we still have inflated assets. That house that people are buying for so much money, in the last 4 years, the bricks in that house didn't change to gold bricks. They're still the same stone bricks. So why is it 800,000 when it used to be 250,000 48 months ago? So we still want that elevated state. So from this point, at 800,000, if you're going to reduce interest rates, then more people can qualify for the mortgage. More people will go in and say, okay, I want this house. I offer you 750. Like, get out of here. I got a guy offering me 850. I got a guy offering me 900. Some guy comes in, says, I want $1 million. I take the house. Now that asset went to $1 million. So what's happening is that this, in an already inflationary environment, without the coinciding deflation occurring, you're only going to add to more inflation. And when you add to more inflation, you're going to have what's called a meltdown. A meltdown is what what a recession would give you, where all asset classes go down. But without that, and in inflated rates, and you have more assets going up, you're going to have what's called a melt up, where all asset classes are going to start spiking. And you're already seeing that. Yes, the Donald Trump pump has caused crypto to go up, but at the same time, there is also, remember, interest rates are going down in the US. And they started September 18th, the first interest rate reduction. So now we are already in a risk on asset price point. And remember, here's a proof of this. Crypto market's going up because Trump is in office and Trump is a pro crypto president, first ever, and maybe things in the US will become more restrictive for crypto. So everybody's excited. But simultaneously, why is the stock market going up? Stock market has nothing to do directly with the crypto market and Trump being the first, crypto president. But the stock market is doing great. Everybody's stocks are going up. The pretty soon the housing prices will start going up. So these are all asset classes that are slowly coming into the fray of the melt up. And when this melt up occurs, it will automatically cause an increase of all asset classes and then all consumer classes, like your consumption things, your chocolates, your oil, your cooking oil. So we are at risk of getting a melt up unless we have the discipline to actually first bring inflation down back to, using the housing example, from the 800,000 to maybe not to 250, but maybe to 450, maybe to 500. But we don't have that discipline. Nobody likes a recession anymore. Before we used to have, expansion, recession, expansion, recession. It was normal. Now we're just, recession is a bad word, right? So like nobody wants a recession. So we're going to keep inflating, and that's going to be very, very dangerous.
Yeah, and how do you think it will end?
Well, then all roads lead to the change out. Like the collapse of the dollar may occur, and if the dollar collapses without having a contender to take its place, then you're going to have outsized chaos could occur, and that chaos can manifest not just in increased prices. I get it. Everybody wants it to a certain extent, who, especially crypto community, because then your Cardano can go to $5 and your BTC can go to 250. But if you're going to walk in and say, okay, like as an example, BTC, let's say somebody owns 8 BTCs, and BTC is at say they own 4 BTC, right? And BTC is at they own 4 BTC. So at today's market price is approximately that 400,000. If BTC goes to 200,000, they're excited because now they think they can afford that $800,000 house. But if BTC goes to 200,000 without some innovation occurring, it automatically means that the dollar's value is going down. So that $800,000 house is now 1.6 million. So you're still almost in that same boat where you cannot afford that house. Fine, you have 800,000. Maybe you can go buy more chocolate bars, but you cannot buy that house. You cannot buy that big asset. So they all ride together. So there's no isolation, where one market is going up and all the other markets are stable and just one market is going up. So this is going to be the big challenge, where everybody will come to that recognition that we have to manage these situations collectively as society, not just the crypto community.
Yeah, interesting, great. Okay, I think we're out of time. I propose that we'll speak soon again, and we'll choose the topic either about your crypto traveling and the insights which you are getting from the different crypto events, or we'll see. Maybe we'll choose some other topic.
Awesome. Great
Well, great to see you,
to
Jayden. Thanks.